Hey, I'm Tim from Circuitous Effects, and you're watching Defining Circuit. Defining Circuit is a periodic interview series where I chat with fellow creators in the music world about what inspired and defined their passion for building the moments, ideas, experiences, and even the circuit that sparked their drive to create for musicians. For this episode, I'm here with Joe Halliday, or more widely known as Hello Sailor Joe from Hello Sailor Effects. Thanks for joining me, Joe.
Cheers, mate. Great to be here.
Yeah, well, let's start off with you telling me a little about yourself and how you got into making pedals.
Oh, man, it's such a long story. So pedals come about because my job, I'm a Royal Navy engineer, and I got into it because I was stuck at sea and my amplifier broke. Believe it or not, I had a tiny Tedder. It was like the best amp in the world. But the mains fuse went, it was literally nothing. And I'm a mechanical engineer, so never touched electrics, really. Yeah. And, I was quite young. And, no one's coming to save you when you're at sea. I emailed around a few places for our next port, and they wanted like 50 quid to look at it. I was like, I can't be paying that. I'm traditionally in the Navy, when you get alongside, everyone goes out and get drunk. I'm like, I'm never going to remember to get this amp. So I just thought, I borrowed a multimeter off the electrical guys and then dove right in. Of course, the internet wasn't what it is now. So you couldn't really go, how do I fix an amplifier? I just had to kind of wing it. And I had so much fun fixing it that I was like, I'm going to build myself the biggest 100-watt dumbbell you've ever seen. I don't know why I went from like nothing to that. But I thought, how am I going to get there? I'll build a few pedals. And so I built like 20 pedals that didn't work. Not one of them, not even close. In fact, you know what? I don't think I've ever said this, but the one pedal that I think worked was the Strato Blaster. I don't know if you've ever played one of them. Yeah. So it's just a buffer. So I plugged it in and it did nothing to my ears. And I was like, oh, that doesn't work either. And tossed it. And actually, it probably did work. It was just, I didn't need the buffer in the G. but nothing else worked because I was trying to use like really old components even back then, or like big orange drop caps. Yeah. And I wasn't good at soldering. So I weren't getting enough heat in there, probably poor connections. And I was just so ambitious that I was like, buying NKT transistors, I'm going to use them. I had no clue about biasing. Yeah. So nothing was ever going to work. And then I eventually built a Range Master. I was like, right, that's it. I'm off.
That's crazy. I'm going to back up. So you tell stories about making pedals and having an amp on the ship, right? You're out at sea in the Royal Navy. What is the condition that allows you as a sailor to have a guitar and amp on a ship and, you're soldering stuff and doing all of that? Is that just something that comes with the time off that you have?
So it's kind of weird. When I started out, I was at the rank of lead man. So that's quite junior. It's like a corporal in the army. I don't know what that is for the rest of the world, but it's like the first level of management, if you like. And so I could have a small amp and maybe put my guitar in my locker if I'm lucky, type thing, and no one would say anything. Really not having the soldering iron out and all that stuff. Now, I'm a chief engineer. No one's coming to tell the chief to move his guitar amp or whatever. So I had stuff everywhere. And people would be like, oh, there's a mess in this compartment. Whose is it? And it'd be like, it's the chief's. All right, well, we can live with it for another day type thing. So it kind of developed like that. But also, I'm very strategic. I used my skills to help the ship. And so people were more forgiving. I'll give you the story. We were stuck out at sea once and our steering broke. So like the ship was steering with just the propellers because the rudder absolutely knackered. One of the guys on the throttle, the young lads, was messing with the switch because they're idiots. Unscrewed it. It dropped inside, shorted some stuff out. Anyway, we're at sea. I think we were off the coast of Murmansk in 2022. Pretty hairy, Ukraine's just kicking off and all that. Tit for tat with the Russians, all that jazz. And our steering goes out. And it's nothing to do with me, but because I'm an OC Parker, I was like, I'll give him a hand. And I ended up helping fix it. But the part that fixed it was a double pole, double throw switch from an amplifier that I was building. And so it's such a simple component, but like we just didn't hold them on board because, they never fail. And so my big boss and the captain get together and they go, where the hell did this part come from? And he was like, well, Chief Halliday had it in his locker, sir. And he's like, in his locker, tell me more. And because I did that, it's like, oh, he's building pedals or, oh, he's got his crap everywhere. That's okay. Because I've made myself useful. I kind of use it to my advantage.
Yeah, that's great. And as you've been on the ship with your stuff, have you come in contact or worked with other musicians who you can play with and kind of fool around like that? Or is it just kind of your thing?
Oh, no, mate, 100%. So on my last ship, I had people building pedals. I had people building amplifiers. just
That's
by
amazing.
like saying, "Oh, have a go at this," or we had ship's bands. So I used to be on my favorite ship of all time, which I'm actually wearing a cap of.
Okay.
It was the Black Duke, HMS Monmouth. Absolutely amazing ship. I think I served like 12 or 13 years on it.
Oh, wow.
Different ranks, amazing. But we had a ship's band called the Black Dukes. And my first ever gig, we booked out an Irish bar in Valencia. So we basically just emailed them and said, look, if we can fill your bar with people, can our ship's band play? And maybe you put on some free sangria or something. And they were like, oh, we don't know. It's a busy period, all of this. We convinced them in the end. But what they didn't realize is we got 2 huge coaches of sailors turn up at this bar. And they were like, oh, my God, we went.
What did we do?
Within like an hour, they drank them out of free sangria. They literally drank everything. It got to the point where it's like, what's that bottle over there? Brandy. Right, we'll have that. After I was terrible. I was playing with the guitar's another story, I'll tell you that, but I was playing with this limited heavy metal guitar with EMGs in it, going straight into a mixer. It's terrible. And a blind drunk, of course, people coming up, tipping drinks in my mouth. It was an experience, but the Irish bar actually closed for 3 months afterwards because they were like, we're done. Our season's over. We're going back to Ireland.
Oh, that's something to put on your resume.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've got a little DVD somewhere that someone ripped me of that gig floating around. I'll have to dig it out. It was unbelievable. But
that would be so funny to see.
I was playing lead guitar, and if anyone knows me, I'm terrible at playing guitar. So you can imagine what the band was like. Our bassist was amazing, and our drummer was a prodigy. Like he could listen to something. Like I was trying to learn Mr. Brightside. Not a very difficult song, but it was like a little bit tricky. I weren't sure on how to play it. Yeah. And then like one day he just turned up to practice and went, I've been thinking about this, mate. Give me a guitar. Doesn't own a guitar. Banged it out first time and said, this is how you play it. And I was like, you give me that.
Oh, man.
Get lost. And so we had like a good drummer and a good bassist that kind of carried us through.
That's an awesome story. Okay, so your building pedals are not working. At that time, I think you mentioned that you're still working towards trying to build this 100-watt dumble, right? Yeah. So you get to the Rangemaster, and let me back up a little there too. On the way to the Rangemaster, were you looking for something specific, or were you just trying everything?
Basically, I was just going through Run-Off Groove and trying to build everything. And any sort of circuit I could find. Yeah. I just have a go building it. And I had no rhyme or reason plan in mind. I just really enjoyed soldering. So my working routine at that point was 8 hours on watch a day, which is like 2 4-hour watches. And then also working 8 till 4 when I wasn't on watch. So it was like a 12 to 16 hour day every day. Wow. And after that, in the Navy, really, all there is to do is either go to the gym or get drunk to unwind. And I was just using soldering as a way of escaping being in that situation and using it as therapy, really. I didn't realize that at the time, but that's what it was.
No, it's amazing. I think a lot of us figure that out along the way, right? That the soldering process is actually really therapeutic. And there was a time when I first started too, when I would just practice soldering just random resistors into a Vero board just to do it. Yeah. And like 2 hours later, I'd be like, I feel good now, you know?
It's oddly calming, and I'm quite an energetic, and I need to be on the go. Like I can never just like, you know, for example, my last live stream was like 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever. I was lying in bed. I was like, I can't play it anymore. I need to go and do something. I just get up and go. And the Navy's built that into me. So like I can get woke up in the middle of the night and say, Chief, this is broke. We need you all the time. And now my wife's like, you can't keep getting up in the night. It's, you know, it's bad for your health, all of this. I'm like, well, this is for me now. I've been doing this all my life. Type thing for someone else. So with regards to circuits, I've got one here, which is the third ever pedal I built.
Oh, great.
That's awesome. Terrible radio, but a customer sent me this back for a new pedal.
Yeah, I saw it. You just posted pictures of that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Well, one side doesn't work, and there's see-through goop on the inside. I don't know what I was trying to do, but you can see that the style of where it was going, it was all there. Yeah. My idea was that tattoos look really good on your body, and the way that they're laid out aesthetically, they work well on a moving shape. So I thought on an enclosure, that would work well. Yeah. And so I started doing like tattoos that I had or ones that my friends and colleagues had picked up around the world. And that's how the Hello Sailor thing started.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And it's a unique look. I mean, I haven't seen any other person try to do that. So I think you landed on something really special.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. The name was a bit weird because I was trying to think of something that meant something, but that was like really cool and edgy. I was like, maybe Sailor's Grave or or deep sea or something like that. And then I thought, I'm an idiot. I'm an outgoing. I'm happy to laugh at myself. Yeah. So I picked Hello Sailor because the actual badge was a drunken tattoo. So I woke up one morning, went for the shower. I was getting washed. I was like, my shoulder's really sore. Looked, I was like, oh, great bit. And that's the tattoo. And that's happened many times, by the way.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
It's one of the better tattoos I've got.
That's cool. So when you got to the Rangemaster, were you on a ship? Was that a pedal that you actually built?
Oh, yeah.
And what was your reaction to building this working pedal that, like, when you played it, was it just like the heavens opened up, or what kind of feeling was that?
Oh, man. So up until that point, see, I'm obsessed with Paul Kossoff and the tone he got in the Granada Studios recording. Free live Granada Studios. I think that's the best recorded guitar sound ever. The problem is I had this limited Les Paul, so like a cheap ESP. It was black with EMGs. I'll explain about that guitar because there's a funny story behind that one. But I had that, my Tiny Terror, which was quite bright anyway. And then I had this Tube Screamer clone that was like a boutique one made in the UK. I can't remember what the brand's called, but they had like a bulldog on everything. And it was just so ear-slicingly bad that I'd like turn the tone down on everything. I could never get the sound. And what I didn't realize is I weren't trying to dial out high end like I thought. What I wanted was mid-range punch, like lower mid-range and a little bit of upper mid-range thump. So you feel it in your chest type thing. And so when I made this Rangemaster, not expecting anything, I plugged it in, hit my regular G chord or whatever. And I was like, oh my, wow, that's exactly the sound I've been looking for all its time. And great. It was nothing to do with dialing back treble like in my mind I thought. Then I kind of went a bit further and like, well, what makes this pedal tick? How do I add some options? Germanium and silicon, what does that do? Input cap, all of this stuff. And I kind of went off the deep end with that circuit for the longest time. And it was all I focused on.
Yeah, it's the Rangemaster is an amazing circuit because it does exactly what you say. You play something through it, and it completely opens up the wideness of that circuit. When you hear it through just even a small amp, is like, how on earth am I getting that sound from just a little speaker? And I think those people who are lucky enough to be able to play that, because a lot of people I think shy away from Rangemaster. What's that? But as soon as you hear that you're pushing the amp and the distortion that it makes, and it's just like, oh, that's amazing.
Well, the reason why I think people don't get on with treble boosters is it's a real unfortunate name, because they don't boost the treble. So one of my friends actually shot a video about Rangemasters, and I sent him a few, and he analyzed them, put graphs out, and you see that it actually cuts treble, cuts a tiny bit of bass, and boosts the lower mids and upper mids. So it's just a mid-range punch, and that's with the standard cap setup. But the problem with them is, if you're like me, and I've got like a 1964 Fender Showman just behind my laptop here, which is my pride and joy. If you put a Rangemaster into that, it sounds terrible because it's just got the headroom. So it doesn't work like that. It works if your amp is on the edge. So for example, I've got a Filmo sound conversion down here. Put a Rangemaster into that, you get that lovely squishy, and it tightens it up.
Yeah, that
works. So I think a lot of people were buying Fender amps, turning this box on and going, what is this stab in the ear type thing?
Yeah. That's an interesting thing about it. A lot of different circuits is how they react to the way the amp can actually push the edge of breaking, right?
Also, I think people have a misnomer on what they want. So people will read the internet and say, I want a germanium transistor. I want it as vintage as I can get and all of this stuff, but they don't actually realize what they want. So 9 times out of 10, I think that the people who buy pedals from me actually want a silicon Rangemaster, not a germanium.
Yeah.
If I put them on a switch and don't tell them which is which, a lot of people come back and say, oh, well, the germanium one's obviously this position. And it's not. Because the silicon's much more like aggressive and attacky and more like a distortion type thing. Whereas the germanium's quite, tone weird's terrible, but it's thinner and it's more like a squawk. It's more vocal. It's more piercing.
Yeah. And I think people get that whole trumpety sound, right? Kind of that we hear stories about.
Yeah. So exactly that.
Yeah.
And I think people read the forums and say, oh, well, I want this. When really what they want is to describe a sound to someone like myself, or even better still, what I did is Chris Vincent. I've got one of his early pedals before he was R2R electric. I think I bought like, it's super early, like 100 and something.
That's awesome.
And his pedals do the thing. Speak to him and he'll be able to tweak it to exactly what you want.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay. So from the time of that first Rangemaster that you got working, I've got kind of a double part question here. Let me know if there is anything that, I mean, of course, a lot has happened since then. I know that, but what's something maybe that's a key moment in your learning from that point where you got your first pedal working? And then also, where has that pedal taken you? What are some of the ideas that you've gotten from that?
So I was so obsessed with Rangemaster that I overlooked everything else. I maybe built some electric distortions, all of this stuff. And then I kind of quit. I really wanted to get promoted in work. I really wanted to be a chief engineer. Since I joined the Navy, I was like, the chief's kind of God on board. They're like, that's what I want. So I parked building pedals. I stopped playing guitar and I focused on career. And then in 2016, I was deployed out in the Gulf at sea. And my boss said, I'm going to start learning to play guitar. You can do all the work. I'm playing guitar. And I was like, I want to learn too. I picked it up again, found that pedal show randomly. And so while I was at sea, I binge watched 2 years worth of that pedal show. And I got so hooked. And I was like, what is the Mick's really into fuzz? And I was like, what is this fuzz thing? And so I started focusing on a fuzz face. And I hated it. I hated the sound of it because I never used to use the volume control on my guitar. And when I made that connection through watching that pedal show and Mick play, he would roll his volume back and I'd be like, oh, that's like clean or distortion, not fuzz. And then I kind of got fuzz, and that was pivotal to me. And then further on, I spoke to Adam from Dominion Electric a lot, and he is like the oracle when it comes to the 2-transistor circuit. And I picked up some bits from him, and now it's just become like this all-consuming effect for me. And of course, 2017, I relaunched Hello Sailor Effects again and built it what it is today.
Okay. Is there anything that you could maybe provide as a piece of advice or wisdom for someone who might want to get into this, who's just starting out?
Buy a better iron, a better soldering iron, 100%. And solder tip cleaner.
Yeah.
I go through loads of these and I clean my tip way more than I should. But all my first early pedals, it was 100% because I'm using a dirty iron. I knew nothing better. And it was actually Tate Effects. Do you know Stu Tate? So I sent him a Rangemaster, oddly enough, because he helped me out quite a bit starting out, and he's such a nice guy. And he very nicely said to me, have you ever seen this solder tip cleaner? And I was like, no, what is it? He's like, well, you might want to get some. Whereas me, I would say, mate, your solder joints are crap. Go and get some cleaner. You know what I mean? He was very tactful, and I appreciate that. I'm much more direct. And he kind of showed me the solder tip cleaner. And since then, immeasurably improved. And also, I say this all the time in my videos, that the way that you run wires is kind of like your signature style. When someone takes the back off your pedal, which as a pedal enthusiast, that's the first thing we do, right? Take the back off, have a little look inside. But that is part of the experience. So make sure that you're thinking about your wiring. How do you want it to look? What feeling do you want people to get when they open that up? Do you want them to go, oh, wow, it's like if you've ever seen inside a Magnatone amp, the old ones, it's like real point to point, and it just looks like someone chewed up components and spat them into the enclosure. It's insane. Do you want it to look like that, or do you want it to look like Leo Fender's, logically laid out, or do you want it to look something beautiful, like you take Chris Vincent's pedals apart, or Reeves Electro, Marcus Reeves's pedals? They're works of art. Do you want it to look like that? And I would say all of that built early on is key.
Yeah, that's great.
Definitely.
That's great.
And it depends if you want to just build pedals or if you want to make a business of it, of course. If you just want to build them for yourself, great. But if you want to make a business of it, what you got to think of is every pedal you build. Imagine if Joe Bonamassa had that in his hand, because let's face it, that could happen by some miracle one day. Imagine if he had that in his hand, what you want him to look and see and feel. Yeah. In the Navy, we have this saying called the standard you walk past is the standard you accept. So if you're like, oh, I made a crap solder joint there, or, oh, I could have run that wire better. If you leave it there, that's the standard that you accept for yourself. And I don't accept that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So you've got your podcast going, which has been really fun to watch. You've got, of course, pedal coming out, it seems like all the time. What's in the future for Hello Sailor?
Oh, man, it's so much. So video-wise, the next big video is coming out. I'm doing my Anchor Drive. So it's the other drive pedal that I mean, I say I designed it, but there's only so many ways you can make a MOSFET work, and I've got 2 of them in there. So you could kind of figure out how it works for yourself. But Tuesday, there's a video coming out about that. And I've got these Brazilian rosewood finished pedals. So it's real Brazilian rosewood veneer.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
And so I'm going to show people how to build the Anchor Drive. So you can buy one from me for a fair old bit of money for my time, or you can make yourself one for next to nothing.
That's great.
I'm also doing like a Brian May Dickey amp. I've got all the transformers in. I think that's going to be a big thing. I think from now on, what my plan is if I'm going to show someone how to build something in a video, I'll do a small release with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's how my pedals are going to run. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining me for this episode of Defining Circuit, Joe. This has been really cool. I got to hear some stories that I've always been wondering about. So I'm happy about that.
Cheers, man.
Well, hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the conversation, stick around. More interviews are on the way where I'll keep exploring all of the things that define why we do what we do. Thanks again, Joe. This has been awesome.
Cheers, mate.